Okay, we are on a walk this morning, taking the dogs out for a quick stroll before we get started on our next big project.
And the project we got working on is one we can actually accomplish in the winter time, and we are putting new flooring in the cabin. So first thing that we do when we get back there, we have to get our cabin all tidied up. We made it back to the cabin, and you've probably seen this backdrop before in a ton of our videos. We usually do a lot of our filming in our kitchen. Today, before we start putting in our flooring, we're actually gonna flip the camera around and we're gonna show you guys around the bottom story of our cabin. So like I said before, you guys have seen this part of the kitchen. The main part of it is our 20-inch propane stove. We put in pretty much everything that is in here. The only thing that this cabin had when we moved in was the cabinets. We put in our own shelving. We also added this table and our nice sink. Another thing we added in was we needed somewhere to eat, so we built this really cool birch table from local birch wood from a sawmill up the road, and we got a couple little stools, and this is usually where we eat our dinner. So this is our refrigerator. We don't have just a standard refrigerator, we just use an ice chest, and one of our friends actually just gave us this really nice ice chest, so we're loving this thing. It works really well. Here is the big pile of flooring that we're gonna be putting in. And believe it or not, this stuff weighs a ton. So we had to kind of stash it in a corner where it wouldn't get in the way. We keep one of our propane tanks over here, and this runs our on-demand water heater, which is a Camp Lux. And we also have our fuse panel, our charge controller, and our Xantrax 2000 watt inverter over here. And this is a really cool thing that Ariel's stepdad gave us, and it's just a road map of Alaska. So I actually spent a lot of time looking at this thing. It's pretty cool to find new cities and stuff I've never heard of. So our kitchen is our kitchen, but also since we don't have like a legitimate bathroom, this also doubles as, you know, a bathroom sink for brushing your teeth and things like that. Over at this next section of the cabin, we have our couch that we don't really like. It's not that nice, it's not very comfortable, it's way too big, so we'll probably be replacing that sometime, who knows when. This is where one of the dogs usually sleep. We have two dog beds, they kind of switch off whenever they want. This is Bo, and he's just sleeping today. And this is our wood stove, and this is an earth stove, and it's from 1988. These things were made in Oregon. This is a really cool wood stove. Obviously it's old, it needs a little bit of work. We're gonna do some new fire breaks and we're gonna paint it and do a couple things to it this summer, but it works really well, and we always have a pot of water on here. This usually gets used for filling up the chicken waters lately, but as you can tell, there's a ton of cooking surface on here, so this thing comes in really handy. And one thing we added on this season was a stovepipe damper. It's just a damper that goes in the stovepipe. And then we also have this really cool shelf or ledge that goes behind the wood stove, so a lot of times we'll set bread when it's rising back there, and it's a nice hot area for that. These are our water jugs. They're drinking water. Usually we have one over in the kitchen, but since we're kind of moving stuff around to do these floors, it's sitting over here. And then I usually always have this spare one here for filling up some hot water on the stove. And then down here on the ground, this is actually one of our newer generators. We have two of them now, and it's been really cold lately, so this one has been staying inside for when we need to start it up. Equipment here has a really hard time starting when it's, you know, -20 to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's why that's inside now. And then the rest of this little section is kind of just our entryway and our door, and this is usually where we keep our boots and our slippers. So this other part of our entry section is kind of our little coat rack we made, and then this is a really cool key rack that we had built for us in Oregon, and that's usually where we hang our flashlights, keys, and things like that. And this is where we keep our other dog bed, and this is Bandit, and he's just hanging around sleeping also. Right behind our staircase, you might notice that I have a garden hose sitting in here, and that's a 25-foot hose. And I actually have to keep that inside during the winter because that's how we fill our holding tank from the well. And even if I drain all the water out of that thing and I keep it outside, it actually gets so cold here that that hose will just pretty much shatter. So that's got to stay inside for the remainder of the winter. And then onto the staircase that leads up into our loft, and this is one of the things during our floor install that we're actually going to be getting rid of. We only have a 320 square foot cabin, and this staircase, although it looks really nice and it functions pretty well, it just takes up way too much room. So this whole thing is going to get ripped out today, and we are going to be replacing it with a ladder that goes up into the loft. It's not going to be a real steep ladder, but it's also not going to be stairs. I believe they call it a ship ladder. So we're gonna get to that in a couple days when we have all the flooring already put in. And over behind the stairs, we have a 55-gallon drum, and this is our holding tank. This is what feeds our shower and our sink. And we keep a 5-gallon or a 20-pound propane tank right here, and this goes to our propane stove. This is where our water jug that was over by the fire will usually sit, and that's 7 gallons, and that's our drinking water. And underneath there is our 12-volt water pump, and that powers our shower and our sink. Let's head upstairs into the loft, and our loft is 160 square feet. We gave kind of a tour a few videos back on the upstairs of the loft, so nothing has really changed. Again, the loft is kind of like our office area along with all of our clothes. This is where we sleep, and this is kind of our little sanctuary to get away from the dogs. One of the things that was not finished when we bought the cabin was the floor. As you can tell, this is just the subfloor that has been painted with a really tough flooring paint. So that is the reason that we're going to be putting in our new floors. And to get started, one of the first things we're going to do is rip out that staircase, and we're going to take all of our big items and put them outside.
We're going to get started on removing this staircase, and after this, we're going to have to bring in a ladder to get up and down from the loft. Jeez Louise, man. 3-pluser, huh?
We got the railing and the posts all off, and tell you what, this actually looks pretty cool. It's not sturdy enough to use, so it's still got to come down. And just taking that stuff down has already opened up this cabin a lot, and that's kind of our goal, is to get back some of our space. So our staircase is only going to come about here. So we're going to gain all this extra space here for walking, putting dog beds, stuff like that. So what we're doing here is there's a big rod that's got a plate on the ground. So I'm going to go get the ladder from outside, and we're just going to be kind of sliding these steps one by one from the top till we get to the last one. And these steps are actually really cool. So we have a couple ideas that we're going to be reusing actually all this wood for a couple summer projects. I got this. Staircase ain't going.
Alright, it is the next day, and clearly you can tell we do not have stairs to our loft anymore, so it's been a little inconvenient getting up and down. Yesterday after moving the stairs, we had a hot mess in here. We had a lot to clean up, and we spent a little more time designing the exact type of ladder we want. So we're up really early this morning to go ahead and just get cracking on things. And the first thing we have to do is fix one soft spot that we have over in our kitchen. So we're gonna get that squared away, and then we should be able to get the floor prepared so we can do half of this floor at one time and then do the other half.
So this is the soft spot we were talking about in our floor. It didn't look like this before I started poking around at it and we're getting it ripped up. And I think it's just maybe some water sat there or something. So we're gonna cut out this piece as big as we need till we get the solid subfloor, and then we have a new piece of subfloor. We're gonna have to cut an exact piece to match it, get it nailed in, and then I think we're gonna have to do one more vacuum on that side of the house that we're going to start on, and then we'll be able to start on putting in the floors. So there's no current moisture down here, and this is another reason we're going to be putting in the vinyl plank flooring, is because we got a kind that is waterproof.
And this is the current situation with our animals.
So we're almost done with replacing that soft spot in the subfloor. We got the piece cut out, but we want to add an extra support underneath there since it was kind of weak when we were stepping on it. But all we had was a 2x4 that's been sitting outside. So that's drying by the wood stove. We'll finish that when we get over there. We're getting the floor prep now to start putting in the flooring. We've swept and we vacuumed again. And we've taken our level and we've kind of went over the ground and made sure that the floor was all level, or the subfloor was level and ready to put our flooring on. One thing I want to mention is these boxes of flooring, they come with different designs in each box. So this one has 3 of each design, and why that's important is you don't want to put the designs all next to each other. You kind of want to put them sporadically so you get a nice mix of them all around the floor. And another thing we did is you want to measure from this wall to that wall and make sure that you're not going to end up when you get to the last piece with just a small little section of this flooring. Ours is really good. It's going to use pretty much a whole one of these once we get to that edge. And you also want to measure the lengthwise of the house to make sure you don't end up with the same thing, like just a 1-inch piece. So we're good to go there. I think we're going to get started. We're going to start in this corner and work our way this way, come back, and just keep working our way up. So on this first corner, we're going to start with our full piece, but by the time we get to where our cabinet is and it's going to end, we're going to have to cut a section off of it. And then I think we're going to use that section we cut off of that to start over here, because you don't want the seams to be lined up with each other. You want them to be kind of offset like that. Sometimes you might have to remove the trim to get a good fit, but our trim sits up enough where the floor will sit right underneath it. So that's good on our end. That's one less thing we have to do. I'm gonna try to get this whole first section put together and then kind of slid and tapped into place underneath. So here I'm just making our cut for our first piece that we're gonna have to cut. And these flooring are designed to click together, so they will only install one way, and there's arrows on the bottom which tell you which way you need it. So I flipped this one so I can get the measurement. And what I'm gonna end up doing is cutting it right here. I'm actually gonna use this piece, flip it around, and that'll click right into place there. And this is going to be where our oven sits. So we're gonna put hardwood floors underneath the oven, but we are not gonna do the hardwood floors underneath the cabinet since we don't wanna rip all the cabinets out. And then we're also gonna be putting the hardwood floor underneath the sink. We bought a kit to put our vinyl flooring in, and it comes with this block and the puller. I think it's called a puller. And this puller is used to kind of get it underneath areas or somewhere where you need to pull it towards you. And the block is going to be used for pushing them together. So this is what we use getting that first section in, and then I just use the puller to get this underneath. And the way you do that is you hook it on the edge and you just kind of tap it with your mallet. So we got that piece in. Now we're ready to do our next full piece. And as you noticed, we started with a half piece. So now the rest of these are going to be staggered. So the first one of these we cut with the jigsaw. It did the job, but it kind of left a little bit of a rough edge, which is fine because it goes under the trim. So we've researched that you can use a razor blade and kind of just break it. So we're gonna give that a try and see if that does a better job. I think that did a better job than the jigsaw, but like I said, these are always covered up anyway, so let's see if we can get this one in, get it to fit. We've got 2.5 rows in and it's looking really good, and we wanted to go with a lighter floor in the cabin because we have a lot of pine in here, and also because it's such a small cabin, we felt that with a lighter floor it would kind of brighten things up and make it look a little bigger. And luckily we went to Home Depot just kind of pricing out flooring, and they had this one and they actually had it mislabeled for the price. So we ended up getting a really good deal on it. And this is a higher quality waterproof vinyl plank flooring. And this is the true cherry color we went with, but it's turning out to look really good. I think the lips on this.
Okay, we are moving along. We ate breakfast and we did some more cleaning up. It's an absolute mess in here, and we're working with a small space to do this. We really don't have the space to put all our furniture outside, and it's super cold. So we moved our dogs up to the couch, and we moved our little collection of the wood panels down here, and we're just gonna keep moving along the floor. Snug. Snug as a bug. You heard that before? That's... Yeah, that's perfect. You're right. We are at our halfway point. Our cabin is 16 feet wide, and we're just one plank shy of being halfway there. So right now we are going to move all this big stuff over to this side, and we're ecstatic about it because we do anticipate to be done today, which will be great. We'll get our oven hooked back up and our water. So far things have been great. You know, it's pretty much a cube. Eric's been doing a really good job on the little areas we have to cut the planks. And overall, we're just really happy with it. I'm happy with the look. The plank designs have been fine. We're just alternating those. And I do think that it would hold up to water really well. With that being said, we're going to get back to work so we can get this done.